Hello everyone, welcome back to the Fetchquest podcast, where we talk about video games and more. Today I am joined by my host, Brewer.
Hey everybody.
Connor.
Hello.
And a special guest that we are bringing back, all the way back from the Five Nights at Freddy's episode. May I reintroduce Julian.
Hello.
Julian, I don't know if we're having technical issues, but is your mic muffled? Like, what's going on?
Looks so good on my end.
I just have this weird mask on my face. It won't budge.
You know what? You should yank it off. I mean, like, what's the worst that could happen?
Alright.
Bro, what happened? Jesus.
Dude, I have no idea. But there's this weird ghost-looking guy behind me.
Wait a minute. He ripped off his mask? Ghost guy? Julian, I think you found yourself and you unleashed your persona!
Yes, I gotta try this out. Persona!
Oh,
Cringe.
dude, he used his power to introduce this episode. Oh
Dude,
my
isn't
god, I'm
that-
hyped for this.
Isn't that crazy?
That's
That's
his
a
Persona's
great-
special ability. That's amazing.
That's an amazing possibility.
To start the Persona episode. What is Persona? Why do we love it? What are the ins and outs of Persona? Should you play it? Yes. And
Yes.
where's it going from here? So, boys, let's talk about Persona, the very long-running JRPG spin-off series.
Yeah,
Maybe we should explain what Persona is first, because you mentioned spin-off series. So maybe let's clarify what it's from exactly.
Yes, of course. Julian, would you like to do the honors?
yes, sure thing. So, Persona is actually a spin-off game, which is kind of funny to think about. So the spin-off, it's a spin-off from Shin Megami Tensei. And what's funny is, at this point, Persona is more so, like, less seen as a spin-off, even though that's what it truly is. You see this with a character in Smash, Joker, being the main representative of the SMT series with a Persona spin-off. So I do think that's interesting, and I do think the timing of this episode is amazing. February 2nd, which might be today, is when, as of the recording, of course, is when Persona 3 Reload comes out, and I'm super excited for that game.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
kind of interesting, before we get into that more,
Yeah.
like, with Persona being a spin-off, like, originally, it had the Shin Megami Tensei, like, title in there, like, for a lot of the games. I think they dropped it with Persona 5, though. It's like they had it
They
for a
dropped it
while.
with Persona 4 Golden. Correct me
Yeah,
if I'm
that
wrong,
is-
I think it was
yeah.
Persona 4 Golden.
Yeah, it was in the original Persona 4, so, like, I have, like, the PS2 copy. I think it's, like, Persona 4 Shin Megami Tensei. But, like, with Golden onwards, I think they just straight up just dropped it.
Yeah, it definitely became its own brand at that point of, its own series, I think. But it is still a spin-off ultimately. That's how it evolved into. And I think it's really cool how they took a mainline series and they tried to, add this idea of, a real-life simulator where you're trying to balance out, high school life while doing some fun stuff.
Like,
Yeah, that brings us into like what exactly Persona is. Persona is, there's two halves to it. There's the dungeon crawling turn-based JRPG part where you and your party members are going to be dungeon crawling and fighting monsters of varying shapes and sizes using turn-based combat with your personas to delve into the dungeons. And the other half of it is you living your life, usually as a high school student, trying to make friends, work jobs, increase your friendships, etc.
It's kind of like a life sim visual novel mix for that.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure, yeah.
The thing is that when I'm always like telling people what exactly Persona is at first, they always think like the life sim stuff is like the boring aspect. But the main thing as to why I think the life sim stuff works so well is that it works in a circle. So you have to do the dungeon crawling stuff to advance the story, but if you want more powerful tools and have an easier time to delve into the dungeon, you need to do the life sim stuff so that you can gain more resources and have better chances of getting through the dungeon in a good amount of time. Because the main mechanic behind at least the modern Persona games, is a time management system. You only have a limited amount of in-game days until you get punished for not completing the dungeon in time.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because like the elements on their own, I don't think they would be nearly as enjoyable without the other intertwining. They both work together in tandem to make the game more enjoyable. Because if you just played one aspect of it, it would be like too much of a good thing to where you'd be like, now it's getting a little monotonous. The combat's getting boring, whatnot. Or, oh my god, I don't want to keep talking to Mishima for 10 hours. But because you keep switching back and forth between the turn-based combat and dungeon crawling with the just life sim aspects and talking with your friends, which both benefit you in certain ways, it really just makes for a very interesting experience.
Oh, for sure. And I think going back to that time management skill, I think that's one of the more fun parts about the game, honestly.
For sure.
Because it's hard, you get rewards for spending time with other people, or you could read, you could watch a movie to upgrade your stacks and whatnot. Maximizing and utilizing all the time you have for each dungeon, like before each dungeon or whatnot, is very important. And it's just fun to me.
There's so much to do that, like, when you first play the game, like coming in blind, it can be just like really overwhelming because like you want to do all the things, like you want to talk to all these like really cool characters because like God, the confidants in the game are like very well written. Well, for the most part, there's a couple stinkers here and
For
there,
the most
but
part, yeah.
Yeah.
but then you have also like all the little games you can do. Then you can like raise your stats as well to like try to like make better links with more people. It just keeps you wanting to come back for more, but because of the time management aspect, you have to think ahead a little bit and be like, okay, I'll hang out with Ryuji this day, try to up my reading skill on this day because it's raining, which means I'll get more points on this day. But then I want to, I guess, romance Anne on this day and max out the confidant. So you're always just thinking about what you can do, which also makes the game good for like repeat playthroughs, because no one person is usually going to play the game the exact same. You have different choices that makes your experience like unique to yourself for like the people you talk to, the personas you use and whatnot. It's just a very nice experience.
If you play optimally, then you'll be dating your high school home teacher.
Oh
If
my
you're playing
god.
it optimally, of course.
Yeah,
How did I know you were going to say that?
I mean
I'm just saying.
that is one optimal outcome for sure.
Exactly.
That actually leads into a really good point on how it's kind of crazy how the game allows you to date your teacher when, like, one of the very first things that happens in the game sort of is just like, that's bad.
Oh
The whole
yeah, that in
Kamoshida
Persona
arc.
5. Yeah.
It's
We
kind of
won't
a
get-
weird
I-
thing. It's just a weird topic to touch upon because like it's like one of the few blemishes I think the game has. That's like, it's just like, were they kind of thinking with this, or were they just wanting to be too anime? I guess.
Yeah, Persona's very anime-like, so there's gonna be a lot of anime tropes in the series, and that comes with some good funny ones. That comes with some of the bad. Notoriously for like all the modern Persona games, and by modern Persona games I mean 3, 4, and 5, since no one really talks about Persona 1, 2, or 2 Innocent Sin.
Yeah.
But yeah, most of the modern Persona games definitely have one particular scene or something where it's just not really liked much by the general community. But that doesn't really take away from the entire game, just because it's one part.
Yeah, exactly. Like, even then, like, I feel like they still do it, like, rather tastefully. Like, when I think of the beach part of Persona 5, I actually think that's actually one of my favorite parts of the game. Like y'all remember, like, when that is in the story, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I remember they're all like on the
absolutely.
field trip and whatnot.
No, it's,
Oh wait,
after
no, are you
they...
talking about the other?
P5.
Yeah. Yeah,
No, oh, yeah, no,
I'm
no, no,
thinking
not
right.
Hawaii, not Hawaii. When they get a
After
new party
the
member.
after the
Okay,
fourth
yeah.
palace.
Yeah, I was thinking. I guess there's 2 beach scenes because I was thinking of
Cool.
like the time you can spend with one of your confidants when you go on the field trip to Hawaii. I think.
No,
Yup.
yeah, that's such a good thing too. And also, you get to see your homeroom teacher in a bikini, so that is a plus in my book.
You
Gotcha.
and your teachers, we have to get you some help.
If you couldn't tell, Guy has a preference.
The guy has a type.
I mean, Cal called me kind of bad. I ain't even gonna lie.
I mean, I'm not saying
Exactly. Julian gets me.
Sheesh. But aside from that, there's many different things to love about Persona as well. I think we touched a lot on the whole life sim part, and the coolest part, one of the coolest part about 5, in my opinion, is just the style of the game, the
yeah,
presentation, the UI, everything about the game just has this sort of elegance to it. It's really cool to see, and it feels almost show offish. How cool every action is exaggerated. You have your all out attacks, which is a move that you could do whenever all the enemies are knocked down, which ends off with a finisher if the enemy is gonna die after the all out attack. And every single party member has an all out attack finisher, all each unique to themselves,
yeah,
which is all really neat to see. Just opening the menu, you can see Joker doing some like cool little tricks and stuff. It's just such a like. I think that's what started this trend as well for other games to follow of this like really cool presentable UI. And I have to say, Atlas has nailed it with.
I mean, it inspired Smash Bros.'s UI, Smash Ultimates.
Yeah,
Just with the idea
Yeah.
of like the menu going into itself and whatnot.
which
To
I gotta
expand upon
say,
stuff
I
more.
like that because Smash 4's UI was disgusting. Like, just looking back at old Smash 4 clips.
It's very weird to like. It's like getting a relapse or something when you go back to play Smash 4 after playing Ultimate,
No, absolutely.
and not just because of
Yeah.
Bayonetta, but because of like literally everything else too. But also
Yeah.
Bayonetta.
I'm really glad that sort of has happened because they're even like doing it for Reload. Like, as someone who like admittedly did not play a whole lot, but when I played Persona 3, I was like on the Game Pass. I was like really like it caught me off guard, like how I guess stilted the UI felt. And so seeing how they're like remaking all of that, and it looks really good from what I've seen from like clips and stuff on Twitter.
Yeah.
Or
I mean,
YouTube.
it was a game that was on the PS2 originally, so I mean, some of that does make sense.
That
Yeah.
is true.
It's crazy how like I think it's pretty unanimous, even for those who haven't even played Persona, that like Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal like have like a top 5 UI in all of gaming. It's crazy.
Absolutely. And I'd even say that as well for Persona 5 Strikers, which is like.
Ooh, that also has a good UI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know Strikers. At least I feel like it. It's not looked up upon like definitely not as well as Royal, because Royal is a like almost 10 out of 10 game.
Almost.
It's just sort of like that. Nothing's perfect, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I
so,
get what you
so
mean.
you're the teacher / professor who wouldn't give 100s.
No.
I don't give out A's in my class, only B's.
Okay. Okay.
No. I get what you mean though.
It is a 10 out of 10 game. I just mean it's not a perfect game.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
But
No, before we yeah, you first.
I was just gonna say, I feel like it's definitely made its like impact and stuff like that because Strikers, I've played through like all of it, and it is really telling how much they were sort of just trying to recapture Persona 5, like Royal with everything. And it,
I wouldn't say recapture because it came out before Royal.
Yeah, that is true.
I did not know that actually.
Yeah, I mean, Kasumi Yoshizawa, the Confidant added in Persona 5 Royal probably would have been in Strikers, if not for the fact that Strikers literally came out before it. Because it's kind of weird. It's a sequel to the original Persona 5, but
But not
also
Royal.
I think it can be a sequel to Royal. They never make it very clear, and the fan base is very mixed on it.
Yeah, it definitely feels more like a sequel to Vanilla 5, just because obviously a lot of the concepts from Royal, because the games were almost being co-developed at the same time, so a lot of the concepts just weren't being, completely added.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, story-wise and lore-wise, I guess, Persona lore, I guess it could be a sequel after Royal, because
Yeah.
those characters don't have to show up. They could be doing something else. Kasumi could be doing some more gymnastic stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
But-
just what I assumed because I had played it after playing Royal, and I just had no idea. So I was like, all right, they just didn't want to bring in the Royal stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
as someone who's played both the original Persona 5 and then Persona 5 Royal and gotten the true ending, I do think it fits more as a sequel to the original Persona 5.
For sure.
Yeah, same here. Before we get more into like the spin-offs of like 5, because I feel like we're heading towards that direction, one thing I want to bring up first is like how much of a change Persona as a series has gone through from like 2 to 3 in particular.
Yeah, 2 to 3 definitely changed a lot of stuff. We're mainly talking about like modern Persona, so like a lot of the life simulation stuff we're talking about isn't really present in the first 2 games. It's more so story oriented, with its own little like twists and whatnot. Obviously, still like high school students and stuff, but you don't have that full like free time style, time management wise.
Yeah, it's like the thing I mentioned before. Where Persona, the modern Persona, has like 2 halves, one being the life sim elements and the other being the JRPG.
Yeah,
They both really work well with each other to like create a better experience. In the original games, though, they are still great experiences, but they tend to lean more towards just straight JRPGs.
for sure. And I think
Yeah,
that's what 3 first started doing, was implementing this life simulation alongside the JRPG, and it just worked flawlessly. Like, it was just such a good idea.
Yeah, I mean they're still
definitely.
doing it today. It's like
Yeah, set the future.
there's a meme in the community. It's like, wait, there were Persona games before Persona 3. Because like because 3 onward is so popular because
No,
of the new. So what?
My favorite is one meme. I'm sure you all have seen it. Maybe you guys can put a picture in the editing as well of this. There's one meme where it's every single protagonist from 1 through 5, and it's a thumbnail of a YouTube video saying Persona 6 and Persona 7 protagonists revealed, and it's pointing to Persona 1 and Persona 2's protagonists.
That's really funny.
Oh my god,
It's kind of funny.
that's really fucking funny. Holy shit.
But yeah, you continue.
Yeah, but it's just it's a meme because like there was just so many changes that they did. Like I'm pretty sure also 3 was also the first Persona game where they went kind of all out with 3D, because prior Persona 1, 2, and 2 Innocent Sin, they were mostly pixelated. I think the only like 3D segments were the ones where you had to do like first person traversal, if I'm correct.
Well, I think it was like 3D backgrounds with like 2D characters. It was kind of a
Yes,
mix.
yeah.
I mean, it was original PlayStation, so work with the technology you got.
Yeah, but they went all out on like 3D models and 3D environments, etc. for 3. So that's like I feel like that was one of the main reasons as to why like it blew up so fast. It's kind of like the Final Fantasy VII effect, where it's like they make a sequel to a previous game, but they change it up so much, like in terms of like graphics and mechanics, that like it becomes so popular. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah.
3D, like the jump from most games from like 2D to 3D, like full 3D, was definitely something that a lot of like fans and stuff were anticipating for like their favorite series. And I think 3 just set the precedent for like future Persona games just so well. I know there's still like diehard like 1 and 2 fans, but I think 3 just like makes the game very enjoyable for multiple different angles for what we discussed, like with the whole life simulation, and as well as, its core gameplay.
I think the main issue too is that like Atlas and Sega, I guess since they also own Atlas, they just haven't done a good job at re-releasing 1, 2, and then the sequel to 2. Because I think the last time, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that like one of those was re-released. You guys remember all those like classic systems, like the NES Classic, Super Nintendo Classic?
Yes.
There's like
Yes.
mini consoles. They did
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a PlayStation Classic, since Sony copying Nintendo as usual. But they did a PlayStation Classic, and one of the games on there was the original Persona 1.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember that actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, I think maybe you can download those games on like the PS3 and like PS Vita online stores, but there's like no other ways to legally play those games unless you go to a secondhand store and chop off your arm and leg to buy them, because God knows they are expensive.
That's
Whereas
crazy.
like Persona 3, 4, and 5, I mean, 5 is on like literally everything now. Same for 4. It was released to Steam after being stuck on a Vita for a while, and now it's on like also everything. And then 3, it's getting a remake that's like coming out. Yay. And then it also has its portable edition. That edition is available to play on all consoles as well.
I know Connor has some gripes with Portable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we can start talking about the differences for 3 since 3 Reload is coming out.
That's something. Yeah, you first.
Yeah, so Persona 3 is definitely one of the most popular Persona games released. Probably second most popular next to 5. But the funny thing about that is Persona 3 has never had a definitive edition. So in total, excluding Reload, obviously, there's 3 different versions of Persona 3. You have Persona 3, Persona 3 FES, and Persona 3 Portable.
And soon Reload.
Yeah, soon Reload, obviously. So that'll be the 4th one. But each of those games, even including Reload, has content or mechanics that are present in the other games. So I guess the easiest one to distinguish right now is Persona 3 and Persona 3 FES, or Festival.
Yeah, I mean, Persona
Yeah.
3, I mean, that's just the original Persona 3. All the extra content and whatnot isn't in there.
Yeah.
But then you have FES, which adds some improvements here and there, but then like also has the answer.
Yeah, adds improvements, adds a social link to the game, and adds like the bonus content, very akin to sort of Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal, where it adds bonus content to the end of the game.
Well, ever since 3, they've done that with all the games. Like Persona
Yeah.
4 had its PS2 version, and then that Persona 4 Golden did something similar, added a new confidant with a minor dungeon and whatnot, and then
Yeah.
Persona 5 one did the same thing, but with the
So-
final boss.
Basically, whenever we get a Persona 6, we're anticipating Persona 6 something is, yeah.
Persona 6 Shrek, because the color theming will be green. This
Green.
Persona 6,
Persona 6.
Fortnite Battle Royale.
But yeah, so P3 FES, those are the major differences. And then here's where things become a little weird is P3 FES and Portable, where Persona 3 is a little outdated in this regard, especially with Persona 3 and Persona 3 FES, where you can't actually control your party members. You're only allowed to control the protagonist. Which leads to a lot of frustration in the game itself because
Marin, Karen.
oh, don't even get me started. A lot of your party members will, just randomly
spam status moves that don't work on enemies that are immune to statuses.
spam status moves like that, or they'll use what the enemy's resistant to, just randomly, or what they'll like counter hit or reflect. Just a lot of stuff, which leads to a lot of frustration. Which Persona 3 Portable actually takes that frustration away, which allows you to control your party members. But the only problem with that is Persona 3 Portable was on the PSP, which means they had to cut back on a bit of the content, which means the game plays out more as a visual novel than, having all these like 3D rendered cutscenes,
I think
animated cutscenes. Everything is now played out as a visual novel, which makes, in my opinion, I feel like you lose a lot of the charm of the game because of that.
yeah, I think it's kind of weird too with the visual novel thing you mentioned, because like it also added a whole new like female protagonist, so a lot of new content, because like they had to rewrite a lot of the social links and stuff to just make sense for that.
Yeah.
But I think for the male character or male protagonist, I think there are some like regular backgrounds and stuff you move around and still, even with the downgraded like PSP version.
So you only move around in the main dungeon of the game, sort of like the mementos of the game.
I guess so.
Yeah, which is Tartarus, but that is the only place you really get the opportunity to move around, unfortunately.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense though. It was a port to the PSP. What can you do?
No, that's understandable though. It's like that. It's really unfortunate because like I get what they were trying to go for when trying to make the game as accessible as possible to people, but it also just sucks because like they did not have the resources or the not the software, the hardware to do everything they wanted to on each system, which sucks. It really does. But
Absolutely.
I think the main thing that like kind of pisses me off, and I know Brewer he hates this one too. Well, we've had some conversations about this one, but he
Very
hates
contentious
when
conversations.
he hates when they make new additions that are not definitive from one another because of different content, which is entirely fair. And that brings us into Persona 3 Reload, which will not be having the female protagonist, which is okay, not the worst. I mean, that's fine. That's not the worst. But the problem with that is that there are distinct story differences between the female and the male counterpart.
Yes.
So that content is gone.
Yeah, because it's not like a character where you could just like mod a skin over or something, be like, yeah, female protagonist. It's like, no, they're actually somewhat different characters. I mean, they're pretty similar, depression, but they still have a couple of good differences to them.
For sure.
And then I think the worst one, I mean, yes, this has been widely regarded as like the worst part of Persona 3 and not very good in general, but they've taken out the epilogue of Persona 3 called The Answer, which I have not played, but Julian, would you love to give please give your thoughts.
All I'm going to say is it's a very good thing they didn't add The Answer because it's just not good.
I'll say this for The Answer, like I haven't experienced it myself, but this is a remake. If The Answer has problems, they could just fix those problems.
Yeah. Well, without spoiling much, I feel like the whole premise of The Answer is the problem.
Who knows? We'll see.
Finding the answer? Shit.
Yeah. But the main point about that, which is kind of sad, is aside from like the other modern Persona games where they have like definitive editions, Persona 3 is always in this weird limbo state where it's missing content that other editions have.
Yeah, dude, even the like Persona 1, 2, and then like 2's sequel, they have more definitive versions. Like they're not as accessible, but they have more definitive versions than 3 does.
Yeah. So there's definitely that, but there's probably going to be a lot of quality of life improvements for Reload. Here's a little fun fact that, maybe you don't know. In Persona 3, dating a female social link leads to you dating them after a certain rank. So it doesn't work like Persona 5 where you have the option to date a female character. You actually are just forced into that route just by hanging out with that character.
Or I think you mean in Persona 5, you have the choice to like max out the social confidant, but you can still decline a romantic relationship with them.
Yes.
Whereas Persona 3, you have to be the Riz Master and just have a harem.
Oh, and the best part about that, this is actually funny. The best part about that is the other social links that are female get upset at you for hanging out with other female social links. So they have like a background like timer where the more you like don't hang out with that character after hanging out with other female characters, they will eventually just stop hanging out with you completely, and then you can never access their social link again.
Wait, that's actually a cool mechanic. That's actually a really cool mechanic. I like that.
Yeah,
it's cool, but
it's cool,
it
but
sounds
for
like
the
it needs
weird
some
purpose. Yeah,
it needs some better implementation. Mostly just having the choice to not romance everyone.
yeah, like you're forced, like if you just hang out with a female character, you are forced into a like romantic relationship.
Being punished for being the Riz Master. Damn.
Yeah.
Just crying because I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't want to break your heart, but I had to 100% the game. I needed the platinum, damn it.
But you know, I think that kind of segues into something else, which is I think like each Persona game has learned a lot off of the other, which is really cool.
Actually, can I mention one thing quick?
Yeah, go for it.
This is kind of just a funny thought in my head. Do you guys remember the spinoffs Q and Q2?
Yes.
So we were talking about the female protagonist not being in Reload, and there's a really funny line I remember from Q2, because a lot of her character in that game is her just hoping she's not forgotten, or basically being written out. Because the entire joke is she's just been forgotten because she's stuck on a portable edition for so long.
Yeah.
That fans were actually really excited when they saw she'd be coming back in Q2. But now she's just getting written out again.
Oh, that's really funny.
Sad but funny, yes. But now we can continue. I just thought a little thought in my head that we should mention.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's all that. And then so like from Persona 3 to Persona 4, there's a ton of quality of life improvements. So the main ones are obviously, as we were talking about, where you can hang out with female social links without having to immediately start a relationship with them. The other thing is combat. Combat is definitely the weakest part of Persona 3. It's very not good, to say the least.
Not good.
I mean,
go into more depth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it like suck more compared to like 5 and 4, or is it just suck in general?
It sucks. It's just very unenjoyable. So, to give you guys a little bit of context, the main mechanic behind the Persona games is the one more system, where if you hit an enemy's weakness, you get another turn to act and do what you want. So, a lot of the times, especially in more modern Persona games, you have skills that allow you to hit all enemies at once. The problem with that in Persona 3 is if you use one of those skills, normally you would think that using one of those skills and hitting like 2 out of the 3 enemies with that skill would still give you the one more. The problem is it does not. So you get penalized a lot of the times for having skills that hit everything, because they aren't going to fully knock down every single enemy on the board. That is the only way you can get an additional knockdown for using an all skill.
So wait, like, are you saying that like if I use Mazaga, which is a multi-hitting thunder move, if I knock an enemy down, I won't get the one more?
Well, if you knock one enemy down that's weak to, or 2 enemies that's weak to Mazaga, you'll get the one more. If you can knock 2 enemies down, but you miss the other one, you will not get a one more.
What?
And the funny thing about all skills in that game as well is they all have decreased accuracy compared to the individual, like just like the single target moves. So
okay,
you are way
the
more
missing
likely
thing
to
you
miss.
mentioned before, that isn't as bad, but the decreased accuracy combined with that does make it worse, because like in the other games, like if I use like Miragi, like an all fire move, hit 2 weak enemies, hit an enemy that reflects it, it would usually cancel my turn. I can accept that.
Yeah.
But it missing when the move has decreased accuracy in general already, that sounds painful.
Yeah, that's what makes the answers combat as well a little more painful. Like, obviously not gonna spoil anything, but like a lot of the enemy designs are like designed purposefully to be really hard in that regard because they will have um enemies that are like all weak to like electric, and then one enemy doesn't have that weakness. So then if you use the all skill, even if you hit all 4 enemies, you will not get the one more.
That is fucked.
Yeah.
That kind of reminds me of like the one added dungeon in Persona 4 Golden, where whenever you go into a fight in a dungeon and it ends, you lose half of your SP. So you're trying to be careful with magic moves, and then also like use the charms to rebuild magic every time you get out of a battle. But then there's plenty of enemies that are immune to physical attacks, the thing you'd want to use while your mana is being drained all the time.
Yep.
Just pain.
No, for sure. But Persona 4, it fixed a lot of that regard. They made it so those problems aren't really present. You can actually control your party members,
Thank
which is
God.
a big deal. And also, just general like battle improvements as well. You have. I'm pretty sure. This one's more exclusive to Golden, however. But you can do like special types of attacks. If 2 party members are present that synergize with one another. Also, you get to pick and choose what each party member learns, whereas Persona 3, you cannot choose what each party member learns.
You
learn their
can't
moves.
choose that?
No, you can't.
Dude, Persona 3 sounds so primitive. Like, I know it was the first entry in a series that's like
the
had
gameplay
the modern
is terrible.
gameplay, but
It is
Oh, that sounds
terrible.
awful.
reload, please, please. I'm praying to Messiah, fix it, fix it. Not God damn it.
Yeah, and then I'd say from 4 to 5, we got a ton of other quality of life improvements as well. We've got a better, in my opinion, fast travel system. We obviously got nicer quality. We jumped from a PS2 game to a late PS3 game, PS4 game.
And then eventually just PS4 game.
Yeah, and combat became even better. I'd say we have the addition of Baton Pass, which makes fights a lot more fun, in my opinion.
It makes them a lot more fluid because
Yeah.
I think a reason a lot of people like enjoyed Persona 5 more than other JRPGs, even if they aren't JRPG people, is because the combat felt so fresh and like quick. And usually there's a lot of aspects around it too, like the music is really high paced with smooth jazz that you'll want to be like going through it quick. You feel nice landing the weak hits, but then too you're trying to avoid the enemies as well at the same time. So you have the mixture of like trying to avoid the enemies while you explore the dungeon, but then when you do fight them, like styling on them.
Yeah.
Which I think that's
There's one
another point I want to
You first.
mention.
It's
It's like-
crazy. Imagine not liking JRPGs. Oh,
That is crazy.
So true.
The devil worshippers.
man. If only one of our friends, Liam, liked RPGs.
Bro, Liam's so cringe for that. I actually told him just that today.
Oh my god. Okay, so for reference,
is- That is pretty cringe.
for our audience, our host Liam, he has stated multiple times to us that he does not like turn-based combat, like in a traditional sense. There are exceptions to this rule, of course. Like, he does really love Baldur's Gate 3's gameplay currently, but that's more so because it's not the same background and you just wait for your turn. He says it's like, it's fun because you get to move around and yada yada. It's because it's a tactical RPG. But I do understand why people don't like turn-based combat, but I do feel like when turn-based combat is done right, it hits so hard. And I think Persona 5 in particular hits it out of the fucking park. Holy shit.
I'm gonna say this as like my quick take, because part of this take is a part of probably a bigger JRPG episode. But I think the reason people hate JRPGs so much like has to do with like a lot of the older tropes of JRPGs and like not with the newer stuff, because a lot of the you gotta grind 20 levels before you can face the boss. You're running out of resources and you have to constantly go back to heal or something. And constant random encounters. those were a lot of problems that you had with old JRPGs. But look at Persona. Like I said, instead of like random enemies, they're like well placed and thought out to where you can sneak around them or get a sneak attack on them to start the battle up quicker and to start with an advantage. Whereas with the old games, usually like even the ones I love, like Final Fantasy VII, run around, random encounter, which can be a little grating at times.
Yeah,
But I think that's just a product of the time. Modern JRPGs do not have that problem to nearly the same degree.
Yeah, it does suck because there are a few spots where I think that is kind of repeated, like Pokemon. I feel like is a good example. They have a big thing on the random encounter stuff, which can be really annoying at times. But all in all, I feel like that those are definitely like problems in the past.
For sure.
Yeah, I feel like this is something that
Even
like
the newer Pokemon games don't have that actually.
It's a weird mixture, and I think Sword and Shield kind of had them. Scarlet and Violet didn't have them.
Yep.
Yeah, it like Scarlet and Violet, and then Pokemon Legends Arceus are really felt like they're the only ones that didn't have random encounters because they didn't. You could choose if you fought something, but Sword and Shield definitely did have random encounters.
only a few though.
Conversation for another day.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
But oh yeah, you go, guy.
I was gonna say like, well, I feel like we're gonna eventually talk about this, but I do want to bring this up. We kind of fell into a renaissance of turn-based RPGs. Come post 2017 when Persona 5 Base came out, because it was being received as critically received as one of the best like turn-based RPGs to come out of the past decade, which is true. But the idea is that Persona 5 had redone like all modern tropes and mechanics of JRPGs to make it like the best experience possible. And because of that, I feel like we saw this in like a good amount of like single player RPGs where like they tried their hand at turn-based combat again instead of just action RPGs.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think
Like you first.
yeah. I think Persona 5 just handled its combat very well. I think like when it launched as well was a point in time where a lot of games were hyperfixating on other forms of combat because I feel like turn-based combat felt like was starting to feel like a thing of the past aside from like the Pokemon games and stuff, whereas Persona 5 kind of showed how like turn-based combat is pretty cool. One of my like favorite memories in gaming is actually the 7th Palace boss in Persona 5. I was
that a spoiler?
Yeah. I'm not.
Let's save that for later then.
Well, I'm not gonna say like anything like specific to like what it is or anything, but it's a fight where I was under leveled and I had to get very creative on how to defeat the boss, and just like being under leveled and figuring out new ways to like prevent myself from getting a game over and stuff, and ultimately just winning the fight doing that felt super satisfying, and it was
I think that's actually a good
RPG.
I think that's a good segue into like part of the customizability of Persona, like the personas themselves, because all the different personas, basically the Pokemon, I guess, of this game that you can utilize.
It is a monster collection games. That is true.
It's
yes,
but good.
They make it very varied, and it makes the ways you can approach enemies very different.
Yeah. I think we need to talk about like what exactly personas are. So like,
could I handle this?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So essentially, what personas are is, as Brewer said, they're sort of like the Pokemons of this game, but of the games. But what they are is that essentially they're just spirits in a very like not from a very outside perspective. They're just like spirits that help you fight. Actually, no, they're JoJo. The JoJo
stands.
Yeah, they're
stands.
It stands.
They're manifestations of the user's psyche, so similar to JoJo, I guess.
Yeah, they're
They
just
kind of represent their true selves, and it kind of varies depending on the game. Like Persona 5, its theme has themes rebellion, so like it shows your true rebel self, which also makes you dress up like you're in Halloween. Persona 4, I think you unlock it after like facing your true self. If that's the best way I can explain it without getting too nitty gritty into details there.
and then in
Pretty.
Persona 3, it's killing yourself. You
Yep.
gotta
Or like it's creating a tragic. What is it, Julian? You tell us.
Like the summoning tool for 3.
Or like, what exactly are like personas in Persona 3? Because like in 5, they're like more so a rebellious spirit, or 4, it's like a literal incarnation of oneself. Like, what did
It's-
they do for 3?
It's very similar to that, where it's like sort of like it's sort of more so like your incarnation of yourself in a way. It gets very tricky with the protagonist, obviously. Because in every single Persona game, the protagonist has what's known as the wild card, which allows them to wield multiple personas.
yeah.
But yeah,
Actually, I think in the original games, I know we keep bringing those up, but I think in the original, everyone could wield multiple personas.
that is actually true. That is actually
That's sick as
true.
fuck, actually.
Yeah,
That and in the spin-off Q and Q2, I think. Well, specifically Q2. I'm not sure about Q.
yeah.
You could everyone could wield multiple.
But
Yeah, you first.
yeah. The wild card is just a trait where you're able to wield multiple personas, and what's cool about having multiple personas is you get to fuse the personas. You can strengthen the personas. There's a lot you could do. You basically mix and match like 2 Pokemons, put them together, and you can inherit their skills into making one stronger Pokemon.
I
Basically,
think the way to explain it, like, let's take your regular Pokemon, let's take a fire type, and let's take one that's an ice type. You want to hit 2 enemies. They both have fire and ice weaknesses. So to make exploring the dungeon easier, I'm going to combine these 2 fuckers to make a even better sick fuck that has fire and ice abilities to kill both of them.
Think of it like how Pokemon Infinite Fusion worked, or like, which it was essentially just a game where you could fuse Pokemon. It's essentially just that, but an actual game.
I mean, that's kind of an
Yeah.
actual game too,
Yeah.
fan game though, I guess.
Yeah, but the idea is that like you want to mix match and fuse these different personas to create one that not only fits your playstyle but also like covers your weaknesses and covers your team effectively. Something they started doing in the modern Persona games, i.e. 3 to 5, is that only the protagonist could have multiple personas at one point in time, which might be like, oh, that sucks. Like, why can't the other party members have multiple personas? But all the other party members are supposed to fill a niche, and they fill it pretty well. From the Persona games that I've played, but the idea is that the main protagonist is someone who can play any role that's needed. Hence, the wild card.
Yeah, so sorry, you first.
I was gonna say, like, imagine having like these spirits that are like, Pokemon, you collect them and you fuse them, but they're deities and beings from folktales and different religions, and you use them as pets, and it's awesome.
Yeah. So back to sort of the whole niche thing. At least how I feel like you should approach the combat, especially for like Royal or something, is that it's a puzzle piece, and you when you're building your team, you need to have a party member that covers specific a specific role. Because, for example, if I have a persona that is really good at healing, then I can just take on the healer role, and so that way I could have a team that is very like heavy assault that just is focused on dealing damage, because then I can just sit in the background and do a bunch of damage.
Yeah, I think the way to look at it is like you have your regular party members, which are usually set to some specific roles. So let's say I'm building a party in Persona 5. I'm going to take a physical attacker, let's just say Ryuji, for example, put him in a party. Okay, there we go. I want defense buffs, so who do I add next? Makoto. There we go. Defense buffs, so my party cannot die immediately. And then I want someone for healing, so let's go with Anne, since she has Medioron, or Morgana. So there's my healing, and then there's my buffs, and there's my physical attack. And I guess for magic attacks, then I can go to Joker, who can fill any of those roles, but now I want him to specialize and doing really powerful magic attacks. So I can give him a persona with high magic strength and concentrate to make him like do double magic damage, and then really busted magic skills off literally Satan himself.
Yeah. And I think the reason why the combat is so good, especially for like Joker, and this sort of applies to any sort of like Persona game where this is a thing, is that because you have the wild card and you're able to sort of mix and match what like types of attacks you have, like you could literally just be like an intense like attacker, because you could have literally a magic attack that covers like a persona that covers like 5 or 6 different weaknesses. So they could have a wind attack, they could have a lightning or the thunder, they could have a fire attack, they could have like any sort of way to attack them like that.
Yeah, but I think it's balanced out too, because then you have to think, oh, with this persona I've used, it has a wind and electric weakness. How can I cover those up? Do I have someone who can like set up barriers to protect me? Or can I just pass on some skills from other personas to like negate those weaknesses? Or if the situation calls for it, do I just need to switch to a completely different persona and change up my strategy on the fly? Because if not, I'm just going to die by getting hit by lightning and wind repeatedly. Because I think about the one more system that we mentioned, while it is really good for a player, it works both ways, which for a lot of the SMT games, that's just how it goes. You can hit the enemy for its weakness, you'll get extra turns. The enemy can do the same thing and just like absolutely destroy you if you're not careful.
No, that's completely understandable. I actually have a really funny story about like the carving of weaknesses and whatnot in the game. I had fused a persona prior to fighting the final boss of 5, the true ending final boss. And I had crafted this persona that had a lot of powerful bless attacks, which is it's a type of element. It's usually like, holy or like divine kind of magic, but the idea is that it would do a shit ton of magic damage on the bless side. But the problem is that it did not have an immunity to the bless element. So the idea is that I was going to use the multi version of the bless attacks to try and hit as many enemies as I could for the final boss. But one of the enemies had one of their resistances is that they could repel any bless attacks coming their way. So I got one shot from my own attack.
That's really
That's very funny.
man.
But the idea is that like you can build your personas to do whatever you want, really, and like mentioned prior, like you can specialize them into anything you want. One of the best like personas in the series is one called Yoshitsune, after the based off the Japanese warrior. But the idea is that he has an attack that does 8 physical attacks at once. And you essentially specialize into doing as many of those physical hits as you can, just to do a lot of physical damage, which I mean, that's just one persona that can do shit like that, and I just think it's really cool how the game gives you each game in at least in the modern Persona series gives you options to make a persona how you want it. Like it doesn't even have to be an optimal setup for a persona. As long as you put enough strategy and enough thought into making a persona, then it'll work, which I think is fucking awesome.
Yeah. It can make the boss fights interesting too, to where you're not always thinking about just like grinding to level up. You're thinking more so, hey, I should fuse some of the personas I have, make them stronger instead of myself, and change up my entire strategy instead of maybe just relentlessly attacking this thing that one-shots me, to be play a little more defensively and go in for the long haul on this boss.
Guy, I'm gonna be so honest. When you said one of the best personas, I so dead ass thought you were about to say Mara.
No, that is the best
Mara.
persona. No,
That's
that is
really
the best
funny.
persona, man.
Do not look up Persona 5 Mara. Worst mistake of my life.
I do have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
Reverse question. Here we go. Of Persona 5, like
What is
excluding
it?
like the
Speak,
royal
boy.
party members, who is your favorite party member, and why?
Oh, we actually made a tier list.
Oh, cool.
We actually did make a tier list.
Hold on, you guys talk about that. I'll find the image and put it in our chat.
I will say this: I am a Makoto stan.
Makoto. Okay, why?
Okay, are you ready for this?
Okay.
Okay, I think she has one of the best developed plots of any side character I've ever seen in the game. I think she has incredibly great utility on battle. She's a healer, she's a defense buffer, and in Royal they actually buffed her to where she can give you buffs on all sides from attack, defense, and accuracy slash evasion. She is incredible as a confidant. I love her story of trying to be a detective and trying to help out one of her fellow students because she's the club president. Not just that, but her story of being lonely and trying to find like this found family with the other party members is something that I relate to so much that it creates like this character that I think about very often in terms of like the Persona series that I look fondly on like anytime I replay the game or just think about it.
Oh, for
since
sure.
since we're bringing this up, quick question for everyone, and this goes for all the games, not just 5. List some of your favorite characters in Persona, because characters and confidants are definitely one of the highlights of the game, and what keeps
Is this
people coming back to it.
I would have to
Is this
list.
excluding Royal?
You can mention Royal, just no heavy spoilers.
Yeah, I feel like
Okay.
a lot of the characters get into spoiler territory. Like
Yeah, I'm just.
the two big ones.
If we were gonna do that, I would literally just list every single character, like confidant from Persona 5.
Yeah.
If,
Jesus, Connor.
If we're okay, I think my favorite Persona character and also my favorite video game character ever is from Persona 5 Royal, and that is Dr. Takuto Maruki. I am not going to explain why he is my favorite character, but holy fuck, that is one of the most well-written characters I've ever seen in like any medium.
It's because he
agree.
gives you snacks all the time.
True.
Also, shout out to Marky's voice actor, who sadly passed away a couple years ago.
Oh yeah.
He did. Oh my god, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, he also voiced Ferdinand von Ayer in Fire Emblem Three Houses, which, if you had that character in Three Houses, congratulations, you heard him a shit ton.
Yeah, I really loved Ferdinand, and I also am a very big fan of Maruki. Also, here's the tier list we made.
Okay.
Cool. But yeah, shout out to Billy Comments. It's a shame we lost such a talented voice actor at a
It
young
really
age.
is.
But luckily, at the very least, we got his performance with Maruki, which was fantastic.
You know, we should probably put the tier list up, but just
We'll put it up.
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
like
we'll
maybe
put up an ad link.
Is that since we brought up the tier list? I figured we'd mention some of our favorite characters.
Yeah. So Guy
Yeah.
mentioned his. What about you two? Like
It's
your
very
abs-
tough.
Like and it can also be other Persona games like 3, 4.
Oh yeah,
Well,
that's what I
they-
said. Any Persona character.
While they think about that, I feel like you have an answer, Julian, for yours.
Okay, I do. if I had to pick 5 exclusively without like any of the royal characters, I would have to say Yusuke is my favorite of 5.
Yusuke is great.
Yusuke's my goat.
He's just the goat. He's really funny. He's been through a lot. That's a main theme with all the characters of 5, but they push on, which is always super cool to see with each of the characters.
Okay.
Overall, though, if I include 3, 4, and 5, Aigis is my favorite character. And honestly, I won't say much why. You guys will find out when you play Reload.
Is it because she's a toaster?
She is a toaster, and I love her.
Okay, so I have only played 5, except for like a small amount of Portable, but I don't like Portable, so we'll have to see how much I like the characters in Reload. But if I have to say my favorite P5 character, oh god, that's really tough. Okay, so excluding Royal because of reasons, I think it's Ryuji.
Ooh,
I-
base.
Honestly, I was gonna say the same as well. I love Ryuji.
Base.
Ryuji is my goat. I love him.
Dumbass, and I love him.
What's
Well,
funny
beyond
is
just being a mess, he's also just a great person in general. Like he's always a good friend to everyone in the party. He went through a lot. Like he's always trying to support his mother, but then also he got his fucking leg broken by one of the villains in the game.
what's funny is surprisingly in Japan, he's one of the most least popular characters.
Dude, I saw that and I hate that damn tier list so much because here's my hot take for tonight. I saw Joker at number 1 for Japan's tier list, and they have bad taste putting a silent protagonist over like
No, for real though. Yeah.
Ryuji and a lot of the other characters that actually have a personality.
I completely agree with that.
No, that's fair though. That really sucks though. It's like Okay, that's really telling of how like underrated he is. Because I think he's one of the best characters in the game.
I like Ryuji. I do not have a definitive list of this, but he is definitely like at least top 10 characters for me, like of all time.
Yeah.
He's so good.
Oh, he's an amazing character.
Who else? Connor, that was yours, right?
Yeah, it was mine and Brewers.
Well,
Brewer.
I think
Yeah,
I
give
want
us your
to. I
second
think I want to
then.
mention Persona 4 since like I think 3 and 5 are always held as like the top ones. 4 is great, but it just doesn't live up to the same. It's not like a bad game. It's amazing by all means. I think it just doesn't live up to 5. I think a character that I like that isn't talked about as much is Dojima.
Ooh,
The,
Dojima's good.
The foster father figure you live with in Persona 4.
Oh, he's fucking based. I love him.
Yeah, because he has a lot of mental anguish with him, like with what happened to his family members, and then what later happens down the line to one of his friends. And he's someone that just tries to be a good father figure to his daughter Nanako. He's just a struggling single father. He's not perfect, which is one of the things I like about him. He tries to be better and just become better for his daughter as well as you.
Oh, his social link. His social link is so good.
That social link is so good.
And
It's
I,
good, very sad but good.
I really want to play Persona 4.
Play
Yeah,
it,
It's on
goddamn.
Game Pass.
If I had to say with like what distinguishes each of the Persona games, I'd say like Persona 3 in my opinion has the best story. Persona 4 has like the best like cast. And then Persona 5 has like the best gameplay while like having a good balance of the previous 2 incorporated as well.
Gameplay definitely.
Yeah.
Man,
I
that
think about it. Yeah, you first.
I was just gonna say that's crazy because I think the cast in 5 is like insane.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he's saying the cast is like
Oh no.
bad. I think he's saying he just likes to cast in 4
Yeah.
better.
It's just I'm not saying that. I'm saying like I'm not saying he thinks it's bad. I'm saying the fact that 5's cast is that good, but you still think 4's is better really shows how good it probably is.
And I truly believe that. I think like the cast in 4 just has a lot of synergy with one another, and it just feels like 5's group feels like friends, but like 4's group feels even more like Frank's, if that makes sense.
I think with the dungeon setup that ties into the story, I think that's what P4 does a little better with its main cast of characters. I do much prefer the palaces that we have in Persona 5.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about
they're
like
not procedurally generated.
yeah, that's one big thing. But talking from like a narrative standpoint, like the characters seeing their inner shadows and the parts they hate about themselves and having to accept it in Persona 4, I think it helped me like grow closer to a lot of those characters. Plus to having their like friends see that as well. Like imagine if Guy saw the worst in me.
What if
Actually he's probably
I
already
already
seen
do.
it.
Yeah, I was about to say,
And
I already
I
have already seen
I
that.
see the worst in him all the time, but
yeah, what if Guy had to fight his shadow?
I'd win. Nah, I'd win.
Nah, I'd win.
yeah, but getting back on topic, I think with Persona 4, like the characters having like to face like who they really are and tackle it head on, but with the support of their friends to help them along the way, just really made me fall in love with the cast.
Oh, for sure.
Oh yeah. I think it's about time for us to finish the episode because it is getting to that point. But just to kind of like go on top of what y'all have already said, like the reason why we bring so much attention to like the characters in these games is because they're just extremely well written, and it's something that I feel like is a big motivation for people as well to like get through the games, is like to see where these characters like arcs go through and like see where they go with their confidants, which is the system that for the social life aspect of the game. But I feel like, at least for me at least, I love seeing where these characters go and how they grow as people, because that's really all what the Persona games are. It's a story about how how people change and evolve over time, and how we really cannot be our true selves unless we look at ourselves for the flaws and accept that. And I think that's something that is special about the Persona series.
For sure. Like, I think each game has like their own interpretation of that too. Some more obvious than others, but like the quick rundown of it is Persona 3 is all about accepting death. Persona 4 is about accepting the truth and pursuing the truth. And Persona 5 is about,
Rebelling against the man.
yeah, rebelling and, changing the future, So I think it's really cool, and each of that always ties into how they summon their personas as well, which is always really neat.
Yeah, of course.
I mean,
It's like you want to.
We can still go into depth about these games even more, because like Persona 5, like I think has more themes to it as well, of like finding what your own justice is.
Yep.
Like God, these games you can just talk about them for hours and hours and keep going on. Like there's a reason the fan base is so rabid for them.
It's because like they're just so well written, and there's always like there's so much to think about, like with implications and like how characters act and how their endings are. It's just there's so much, and it's so much to think about. It's incredible. But I think we should move on a little bit from that, and I actually want to talk about a little bit about the music.
Oh yeah, and I'm surprised we haven't touched up on that yet.
Maybe just because we've been listening to it for this episode and we have it playing in the background.
No, the music is phenomenal.
I'm just gonna say this right now. Persona 5, that and Royal, it's my favorite soundtrack in all video games. I think it is fucking top tier.
Same.
Dude, the song I Believe in Persona 5 Royal, I fucking love that song. I will constantly listen to it.
Oh my god. Oh wait, what's our favorite Persona songs? Mine is Throw Away Your Mask for very obvious reasons.
Rivers in the Desert.
That's a good one. That's a top 3 for me.
Mine's tied between Rivers in the Desert and Throw Away Your Mask. Hold on, I've got some of them in my fucking playlist.
While you're looking, I think one I'm gonna mention, it isn't exactly like my favorite compared to like the big story tracks. One of my favorite dungeon tracks is like Heaven from Persona 4.
Oh, that one's
because it's very different than what you would expect from like, dungeon crawling, fighting literal devils. It's a very like somber and relaxed song that like some of the lyrics too mention some like I guess
Heavy
like
shit.
emotional heartaches.
Yeah.
And just some heavier themes and whatnot.
Okay, so I cannot really like definitively say what my favorite is, so I'm just gonna name my top three. Rivers in the Desert is definitely one of them. Um, the other two are Throw Away Your Mask and I Believe. I really like I Believe.
Good picks.
That's a
Good
good
picks.
song. That.
Yeah,
I think that's
Lynn
also
is,
my
Lynn
top
is
three.
such a good singer.
One thing that I want to discuss is like the Persona soundtrack has just become a very, very popular thing. Not even just five, but also three and four's soundtrack has become just kind of pop culture and like video games. I want to say,
Oh,
like
for sure.
if you ever want to watch like this is something I see very often with challenge videos, like for challenge runs of video games, whether it's like a Souls game or like an RPG. Like, can you beat blank by only using blank? Something you'll see like when they're editing their montages is that they'll actually use a lot of Persona music, and I feel like that's just a byproduct of how good the soundtrack is. And that's just something I see like a lot in our culture now. Is that at least on the video game side of things, is that we love implementing a lot of Persona music, but it's
Yeah,
just that based.
I see it on a lot of podcasts too. There's also just like one really neat podcast. It's like called the Fetchquest podcast. That one uses it a lot.
Cool.
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't
that
notice
one's
I
that.
pretty
think you guys should
based.
check. I think you guys should check that one out. Maybe like its videos and subscribe to the channel.
True.
Nudge, nudge.
True, true.
But yeah, that's something I just really want to like talk about because the games I feel like have perfect soundtracks for what they're trying to go for. They each have their own distinct styles. Like Persona's like a smooth, exciting jazz. Like it's in the combat, it's in just the day-to-day life stuff. It's a lot of like just smooth, relaxing. Persona 4 is a lot more upbeat. It's just
Pop.
the reflective. Hmm?
It's a lot. There's a lot of
So
pop added into it. It's really nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of upbeat pop because that's representative of the game. It's much more joyous and like happy compared to the 3 and 5, and then like
Three's a flip side. Yeah. Three is
Yeah,
Depression.
even the happier sounding songs or like you listen to the lyrics and it's like dang, it's kind of depressing. Like the city theme, even though it's like sounds all upbeat and stuff, it literally starts with "I never felt like so miserable."
Jesus.
Yeah, so even like yeah, so it's three is a lot more depressing and stuff, but definitely some really good
It's
themes.
kind of neat how they went from 3, which has a lot of depressing themes, and like you literally summon your persona by putting a gun to your head. Well, evoker, but lore explanation later. But then they went to Persona 4, which starts off with like a groovy theme that's like used for so many meme compilations and whatnot. Where the characters are all dancing
Yeah.
on screen and whatnot, and they're like, "Yeah, it's time to get groovy."
Oh, God. I feel like Persona really like popularized that one. I mean, obviously, like the trope itself. Yeah, I'll explain this in a second, but the trope itself, I don't think was created by Persona, but I feel like it kind of helped popularize it. Is like the idea of, we did it, guys. We beat God, and then like start a dance number.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like beating God is just a regular JRPG thing.
No. I'm talking about like the dancing during the credits thing.
Dancing thing. I feel like that's just an anime thing because Persona's inspired by a lot of anime.
It's really fucking
Watch
funny.
enough anime and the openings, the characters are always going to be jazzing out for no reason.
True.
Jesus.
Even if they like all their friends are dead, they got killed and whatnot.
Me and Vegeta, we just beat Frieza. I hear a song coming on. Hit it.
Oh my god. Yeah, but that's just really a testament to like how good the soundtrack is in like all the like at least the modern Persona games. It's crazy to think like a JRPG series, which like it wasn't like mainstream or that popular until like really 5 and 4 came out. But it's crazy to think that like because of just how well like the soundtrack works and how the gameplay works and the characters, that it's created like these games that are like pretty well known in the gaming space now, and they're very, very popular, and the media the media that these games have given us are still being used today in other formats, whether it's memes or just like general pop culture and editing and whatnot. I find that so interesting.
Oh yeah,
But
definitely.
yeah. With that being said, I feel like that's a fun concluding point. Not a concluding point, but a fun place to stop and start slowing down things a little bit. I want to go over some concluding points, and then I think that's a good place to wrap up. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
sure.
Maybe a quick little spoiler section, since I know there's some things we want to mention.
I mean, what for though? I mean, I think I'm good without mentioning anything from Royal at least.
Yeah, we'll see. Let's just go into our concluding points first.
Yay. Julian, since you are our guest, I will let you go first.
Yeah, this has been the Persona episode. I'm just glad to talk about the series and stuff. Like again, this is a series I could go like hours and hours talking about and like talk about each specific game as well, just like not even all of them. Um, so like it's a very good series, one very near and dear to my heart. It's honestly probably my favorite video game series to date. Yeah, no, each new release of each game, I'm always super excited about. There's just so much I can nerd out about the series. I literally listen to the OST sometimes, whenever I'm alone, whenever I'm driving my car. And I just reminisce about this game a lot. I'm super excited for Persona 3 Reload. It genuinely might be my favorite game of all time because, like we were talking about earlier in the Persona 3 section, Persona 3 does have its fair share of problems, but I mainly associate all its problems to the gameplay. I think the story is phenomenal, and I'm really glad people will finally be able to experience Persona 3 without horrendous gameplay, which will be a lot of fun. And I think a lot of people are going to fall in love with Persona 3 because of that. So, yeah, that's basically all I have to wrap up for. If you haven't played Persona, play Persona. Start with 5, 4, 3, whichever. Good games.
Alrighty, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. I'll let someone else go first.
I think I'll go. Just the Persona series. It's been very dear to my heart. But like five and four, I started playing them at a young age, and they just very much impacted my life and just the way I kind of see things. Like its characters kind of just influence like the way I think I should maybe go about things, and also just the motto I should keep to myself to like keep going and whatnot. Especially for like the ending of Persona 5 Royal, which it's hard to explain without specifically explaining it, I guess. But it kind of keeps to the point where like even if life is hard, you just have to keep going, keep working, and just working towards your goals and dreams. Because even if life isn't perfect, you just need to work towards improving yourself. I think that's one thing I kind of took away from it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's a good like thing to take away from it because like I see the games as like very inspirational and they like thinking about them just like gets me motivated to do stuff. So that's awesome. I'm glad you took that away from it. Um, Conroy, I will let you go.
Um, I really like how I don't really know because I've only played Persona 5 and I love that game. It's like top 4 games for me. Um, and I really did enjoy it and its combat and its system. And similar to Brewer, I also really think the sort of lesson of it of like never sort of like making your own justice, doing what you think is right, even if a lot of other people don't, is very important because it's it's sort of just something you need to carry with yourself because even if someone is like, let's say someone's bullying someone, but if you stand up for them, you could get in trouble with the teachers or something. I still think you need to carry that lesson because it can come out. It can be really handy once you actually like apply it.
Yeah, I think the game is just very good at reaching a lot of different people with this message. I think that's one way I'd put it.
Yeah, that's a better way to put it. I'm not really good at stuff like this, but that's the best way I'd put it.
Yeah. I guess it's my turn now. It's kind of hard to explain how important Persona is to me without understating it, but I've played most through 4 and I haven't started 3 yet. I'm really excited for Reload, so I'm able to experience it for the first time. But Persona 5 in particular is my favorite game ever. Persona 5 Royal in specific has just it's really changed me as a person the more I think about it and the more I play it. Yeah, it's that fucking good. I'm not even understating how important this game is to me, like, not just mentally, but developmentally. I see this game as not only something to make me laugh, to make me cry, to make me enjoy myself over, but it is a game that has taught me so many different life lessons, whether it's from knowing how to be a friend to people or knowing how to deal with life to life day-to-day life crisis and situations. And it does this through, some of the most absurd shit ever, like going into people's minds or going through an ever-changing tower. But the
Cat
idea
bus.
is that... So what?
Cat bus.
Not bus. But I seriously think that Persona 5 Royal, in my opinion, is the most important modern JRPG that we, at least turn-based, that we have right now. Not only do I think it tells the best story out of any modern JRPG, but I feel like it has some of the best gameplay loop. It has one of the best gameplay loops of any RPG I've ever played, and it has got me to come back to it many times just to relive that magic. And it has some of the best characters I've ever seen written in fiction. To understand how amazing this game series is, you have to play for yourself. It's so much better going through it blind. If you haven't, been spoiled on it already, because fucking Persona fans are awful at keeping things a secret. But
And
from
Twitter.
my experience, Twitter, you're right. But from my experience, like, this has been a series that I hold near and dear to my heart, and it is something that has made me passionate, not only for someone who in literature, but also in video games. And I probably wouldn't be here where I am right now if it wasn't for Persona 5, and that's just something I really have to give testament to the game. I love this series so much, and I will quit my rambling for now.
Yeah. I mean, I think for all of us, like, beyond life lessons too, it's just also a fucking great ass game. Like, like we mentioned, combat's so fun, story's just enjoyable. Gives you laughs and whatnot. It gives me gameplay that's like keeps me constantly thinking as well. It's just a game too, like, that I can never not recommend enough to anybody.
For
Oh,
sure.
for sure.
Because especially too, you can get it for pretty cheap as well. It goes on sale for like $30 to $20 all the time.
And it's
Persona
on
4
all modern
Golden.
systems.
Persona 4 Golden, that's only $20 and usually goes on sale for cheaper. Reload, not so much, but it's a brand new game, so I mean, yeah, full price.
Yep.
A brand new game. Can't do much against that.
But yeah, I mean, we seriously do recommend people to start to pick up this series because it is very popular, but still more players playing it is always good. But this is a series that we hold near and dear to our hearts. It's on the Persona 3 through 5. They are all on modern systems. If you're going to play Persona 3, probably wait till Reload, like we've mentioned before in this video. But there are so many ways to get into this series, and it's nothing but a good time. I've had even the flaws that I have with the games are so nitpicky that, like, there's no point in really, like, trying to be, all about it.
Yeah.
But
If you put them on a scale,
think,
I think if you put like the flaws compared to the greats on the scale, the greats are like 5 obese elephants, and then the flaws is like
Sand.
like let's just say a half
Feather.
dead cat.
a singular feather.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's gonna wrap up for today. So if you guys loved this video, please hit that like and subscribe button, like how you hit those enemies with your personas and your skills on them.
So true.
And
Get
maybe
a
comment
one
who
more.
your favorite character is in any of the Persona games.
Yeah, and I think that about does it. So yeah, like, subscribe, comment down below, and thank you all so much for watching.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
again for joining us, Julian.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, man. Like, it's been such a good time. I'm glad we got to bring you back for this because I know you love this series like very, very much. So I'm very glad we got to do this. But
For
with
sure.
that being said, guys, this has been our episode on the Persona series, mostly on the modern ones. With that being said, this has been Fetchquest. We will catch you later. See you later.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah.